Our next speaker is Mr. Don Jackson. Mr. Jackson was the president of manufacturing for Volkswagen of America from October 2008 to June 2012. His overall responsibility included the startup and overall management of manufacturing operations here in Chattanooga. His leadership from day one at the announcement of VW coming to Chattanooga resulted in the establishment of a new facility considered to be a benchmark within the industry and VW, and he achieved the best car of the year at the time of its launching with his team. Prior to VW, Don was Senior VP of Toyota Manufacturing and worked with Toyota in their Kentucky and Texas plants for over 20 years. Please help me welcome Don Jackson.
I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I met Matt here 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was sort of a fluke meeting, and I got to learn a little bit about what he's trying to do and try to prevent here in Chattanooga, and I was very excited about being part of this activity with Mark and the team here. So first of all, again, as mentioned, I've retired from Volkswagen. I've been gone over a year already. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to be on the outside looking in, wondering what's going on, but I must remind everyone here that my comments here are my own comments. They're not the company's comments. I cannot and will not give any proprietary information, but I have a lot of firsthand knowledge that I'd like to share with you in my 34 years of manufacturing. So again, haven't been involved with the daily operations. I get to hear a lot of feedback from the team. I get to applaud in my chair at home or something, and I'm very excited. So again, why are we here today? In the manufacturing arena, many times we talk about the union, we talk about as a third party. Typically, it's not one union or the other, but in this case, the UAW is very interested in Volkswagen and also interested in Chattanooga. So really, the people here need to make a decision on the clear facts and the history, as talked about a few moments ago, and what is the potential impact on the future. And most importantly, what is the impact on the employers and employees? So how will it impact your community? You've heard a little bit of that already. As Chattanooga, you get new people wanting to come, you get new suppliers wanting to show up. And they're saying, wow, is Tennessee, is Chattanooga a friendly place to work? Is it friendly for labor? Is it a pro-company environment? And what's the impact, I want to talk about, of signing a UAW authorization card? We have a lot of people pushing those cards saying, hey, we'd like to represent you. And I think a lot of people maybe don't understand the full consequences. So again, as discussed, over 34 years in manufacturing, I had a very incredible journey with Volkswagen. It was probably I really had the best jobs in the world, in my opinion, in Toyota and Volkswagen, working with the best. And very impressed with the overall management team here that the team that's established, and also the organization in Germany itself. I learned a lot, and I also gave a lot. So what's the main points in the message? Again, the personal concern for the Volkswagen employees directly. Again, as you can imagine, we started with 0 employees and we grew the organization completely. So I take it very much at heart about the people that I work with. A lot of the people are here today, a lot of friendly faces. And it's very rewarding to see the people come out. And in some cases, we'll cover a little bit more in the message later, but again, there's all kinds of propaganda and all kinds of information flying around. Even today, there was a text that says, oh, the people for the union shouldn't come tonight. It's interesting. It's like the old story, if the heat's too hot in the kitchen, I don't guess you come. But anyway, it's an open environment. We want to have that kind of freedom of speech and be able to discuss any open issues. So again, the company and the team members will make the decision. As Matt said, of course it impacts many people. And it's based on a card check system. The union has a card check system. It's very many details, laws about the National Labor Relation Board. And it's based on employees and the employees not having a positive employee relations involvement or not having a good result in the plant. So, you know, the key thing is, which I'll cover in a moment, is when you sign the card, what does it really mean? So prior to VW, Mark already covered the details. It's almost like a repeat of the history here. I started as a young engineer in Kentucky, you know, trying to understand how to make automobiles. I had previous manufacturing experience before that. And growing up through that environment, going from an engineer to the general manager level of quality finally, all the way up to vice president of manufacturing at the Kentucky plant. We built 2 plants, just like we have the opportunity here to build 2 plants. And I learned a lot. I was developed by the best. And it's the same opportunity that the people have here in this community. And during that time, I also had a chance to visit many facilities. I visited many suppliers. I developed a supplier development team where we supported the worst and the best suppliers in North America for Toyota at that time. So I got to see the worst and the best, union and non-union, and I got to really learn a lot through that experience. As Mark said, I was in San Antonio, had a chance to be the senior vice president there. Again, a ground-up operation, 21 on-site suppliers. We built the plant from nothing. We hired, you know, San Antonio is not a manufacturing town, right? Don't you go there for a holiday? They build great Tundra trucks now. And really built it from the very basement all the way up through the organization. So why is this background important? Why am I painting this picture? The purpose is to really explain that I've spent many years in manufacturing. I've learned, like a lot of management people in a lot of different companies, how to manage operations properly, how to motivate the team, how to set up the policies, and how to set up a non-union environment. So let's look at the direct employment impact of those companies, as Matt's already covered some of those details. There's 6,400 employees now working at the Kentucky plant today. There's 2,300 employees working at the Texas plant today. And there's over 2,400 employees working in Chattanooga. So that's 10,000 direct jobs based on doing things the right way, managing the right way. And all of these plants will continue, in my opinion, being a non-union environment. So what's so important about a non-union environment? The employee involvement, the direct communication with the level, any level in the management. Many of these people here tonight, we spoke many times. And it was face-to-face without any third party. The third party drives a wedge between management and the team members. Had common goals, flexibility, and we worked with all employees equally. So let's look at the results of the VW plant in 5 years. I think you've already saw it in the paper. I don't really need to cover the facts. But again, the sales have rebounded. The 250,000 Passats have already been built right here in Chattanooga. Look at the economic impact. Over $640 million. And the ads, aren't you proud to see Chattanooga in these commercials? And the overall environment impact is really incredible. So again, I'm very proud of the Volkswagen plant here, along with other plants. And you think about it, McKee Foods, Siskin Steel, many others, they're incredible plants and they continue to improve. So again, as Mark said, I was the first local manufacturing guy hired. And my role is very similar to the role in the Toyota operation, is really take the best principles from Volkswagen. It was an incredible opportunity to learn and go and see those. Take the best principles from North America and here in our local team and develop a brand new company. And let me say one thing. You know, I wasn't the only person. It was a team effort from the employees all the way to the management. And then how do we accomplish these and how these things happen? The board supports the plant. Again, it's not just a Volkswagen board, it's any plant's board. The board must support it to make sure we have adequate support and adequate leadership, the right leadership in the plant. And again, Volkswagen was built 5 years, 250,000 cars without a union. It's important. So what about the future? Do companies in Chattanooga really need a third party or a union? I don't think so. So if the unions start to unionize companies, it's only the stepping stone, is what was discovered earlier. It's a big impact to the overall environment that we work in, the economy, and really they don't represent the team members from my experience. So do the research, as Matt already covered. How many union plants have closed? So you hear a lot of threats and promises. I've heard a lot of the feedback from the team members. They call me directly. I live in neighborhoods where people work still in the plant. And they say, oh, please join a union and I can promise to give you more money. Please join a union and you'll get the new car, the new SUV, or you'll get higher pay. It doesn't work that way. It's old union practices, and it's really based on intimidation and threats. And really, the VW employees should deeply consider whether joining the UAW to really support the Works Council. So in my opinion, future expansion in the plant is really built on top management's confidence. You really look at the Chattanooga operations, they've done everything that needed to be accomplished. They've built the product, good management team, they show they can do it, bring on the SUV as far as I'm concerned, but it's their decision. So when you reflect in companies that are a non-union facility, typically the wages are good, there's good promotion opportunities. Good example is team members get to promote to team leaders. 100% of those members were promoted from team members here in Chattanooga. So incredible. We had hired no team leader from the outside. And good bonus programs. They're company-based, based on management by objectives. A good benefit and health care program. To me, it sounds pretty good. So I'm not sure what the union can improve. So again, if you look at the history, I won't recover what Matt covered already. But again, you think about it in 1935, when the UAW was formed. It may not be exactly the right year, but in 1935, think about the working environment. Maybe the union had a place then. Think about, when my father, he worked for Ford, and when I joined Toyota, he says, wow, you can't park that car in my yard, So quite honestly, things have changed. And, during those time frames, maybe that was a way of doing business, but the companies have learned how to manage the companies properly, how to motivate the team to build a quality car. We're going to talk a little bit more detail later by Charles about our IG metal, or Mattel, as it's pronounced in Germany. Again, a similar situation, but a little bit different. It was developed in late 1800s to 1900s, the early 1900s. Think about the war in 1945. Think about the working conditions probably the employees had in Europe. Maybe a union was needed. Maybe the overall IG Mattel or the Works Council needed to be formed to help those people in their developing countries. And quite honestly, that's the way of doing business in Europe. And you'll hear much more detail in a few moments. So, sometimes you may wonder, why doesn't the management talk more openly about we don't want the union? It's not VW, it's not Toyota, it's every company. Honestly, think about it. The management team, the supervisors, they have to focus on doing the job, the daily job every day, producing cars, making sure positive work relations, make sure people are here, and they focus on making a product that the customer wants. So, and also companies now work in a global environment. When I visited Mexico, or I visited Europe, or visited Japan, every country has a different working conditions. So if I'm here to say, I don't accept unions, people are confused. So the idea is in each country, they have their own ways of doing business. But in the US, quite honestly, we're very successful being in a non-union business. So with the Volkswagen plant, it's in a different situation. You'll hear more detail in a moment. So talking about threats, I talked about that already. And again, if you look at successful companies, they always work on trying to get team member involvement. But I'd like to spend a few minutes on union dues. This has also always rubbed me the wrong way. So if you look at the contract or look at the union website, UAW, it says 2 hours of pay each month and 1.5% of the bonus is in union dues. Now, it sort of makes me wonder. I said, well, you know, the company is already paying the HR people and these other organizations to run the company, but we're going to have somebody else do the same thing. It doesn't make sense to me, but, you know, when you think about over 2,000 employees, that's almost $2 million a year. And each contract is different, each dues is different, but it's something to think about. Do you really want to pay dues for something you already have? So from my experience, the team members can really represent themselves. They don't need someone to represent them as a union. So then, talking about dues, where do you think the dues go? Matt covered a lot of that. What percent of the dues stay here locally? Only 38%. This is on the webpage, on the UAW webpage. The rest of the dues either go to the strike fund or the international fund. So regarding the union leadership, again, it's been in the press. Bob King, the president of UAW, he has mandatory retirement next year, 2014. Don't worry, we're going to create a works council situation here in Chattanooga. What happens after he's gone? Does it stay? Does it really work? So based on these news articles, it appears that things are not so sure. And when you really look at the details of the newspaper articles and listen to the press, it looks like the Works Council at some times is going directly and trying to get a handshake regarding the overall corporation itself. So when you look at the overall situation, there's 2,400 employees in Chattanooga. As Matt said, 390,000 overall employees in the union. Looks like the VW employees would be a small fish in a big pond. So who's really going to be represented in the long term is my question. So as Matt covered a little bit of this, and again, because of the declining nature of the UAW membership, 74% membership declines in 79, the union needs the dues. That's what it's all about. They want the money from the dues. So regarding the card, the UAW card, there's a lot of tricks with the UAW card these days. Sometimes, you know, the card's always two pieces. It's one piece, you tear it off. The one card looks very, very familiar. I want the UAW to support me in my name, etc. But you tear off the part of the card that says, we will support the overall Works Council principles, etc., etc. The thing that's important is the UAW card takes you out of the picture. You're not involved anymore. You sign over your rights for the UAW to represent you directly. And there's many times, you know, you can imagine, you go into work every day, people calling you at home, showing up at your house, it happens. Sign the card. We're going to get you more money. We're going to get the new vehicle here. Sign the card. After a while, the team members get fed up with it. Okay, I'll sign the card to get you out of my face. It's very important. You can't do that. If you feel like you've been pushed or harassed into doing that, you have to ask for your card back. Quite honestly, I can count on my hand of zero how many cards I've seen returned. But if you can trust a union, ask them for your card back and see how many you can get. So in closing, you know, what I'm all about and what I've been excited about in my career is really building things, job creation, really seeing people grow in their responsibilities and role. And I felt comfortable enough to retire to let the plant be run by the local team here now. I'm very proud of them. And I've been able to work without a third party or a union for over 34 years. I'm very proud of that. And I believe it's the proven path for our success for the future. So again, thank you for your attention tonight.
Thank you, Don.